The last person to see Ashlee Janae Robinson alive was a hotel maid, and until now, she hadn't said a word. That silence is over. What this woman witnessed inside a luxury beach resort in Zanzibar, Tanzania, on the night of April 8th, 2026, is now sending shockwaves through an investigation that officials on the other side of the world tried to wrap up quietly, quickly, and permanently. They called it suicide, stamped it, closed it, moved on. Except Ashlee's mother had just spoken to her daughter, alive, calm, on the phone. And within hours of that call, her daughter was being rushed to a hospital 8,000 miles from home. She died 2 days later. And the man who was supposed to be the love of her life, the man who had just placed an engagement ring on her finger days before, was sitting in a jail cell, his passport seized, saying nothing publicly to this day. Here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. The United States Embassy does not dispatch a coroner to a foreign country for routine cases. They do not insert themselves into autopsy rooms across international borders because they are curious. When that level of government moves, it moves because something in the official story doesn't hold. Something doesn't hold. And tonight, for the first time, the person who was inside that hotel, in that corridor, on that night, is telling us exactly what that something is. Stay with me, because this story is about to get a lot bigger than a vacation gone wrong. Subscribe if you are not already here. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you are watching from. Like this video and share it. Every single view keeps this case alive. Now, let's talk about what that hotel maid saw. Her name was Ashlee Robinson, but the world knew her as Ashlee Janae. And if you had never heard of her before this story broke, I want you to understand something. She was not famous the way celebrities are famous. She was. Known the way people you actually like are known. Over 80,000 people followed her on Instagram, not because she was untouchable, but because she made you feel like she was sitting right across from you. Like the camera was a conversation, not a performance. She posted about travel, about fashion, about what she called living a soft life, a life built around joy, intention, and beauty. She was from South Jersey. She had a family that adored her, and she had a laugh from every video that circulated after her death that made complete strangers feel like they had lost someone they knew, because they had. She turned 31 on April 5th, 2026, and on that day, surrounded by rose petals on an African landscape, giraffes grazing nearby, a man she loved standing close, she posted what would become one of her final messages to the world. Chapter 31, and I'm exactly where I need to be. That man was Joseph Isaac McCann, 45 years old, 14 years her senior, the founder of a cryptocurrency firm called Asymmetric Financial. By every public measure, successful, established, the kind of man who plans a birthday trip to one of the most stunning coastlines in East Africa and books a private villa at a luxury resort where rooms can run close to $1,000 a night. 2 days before her birthday, on April 3rd, McCann got down on one knee during a safari at Serval Wildlife, a luxury ecotourism sanctuary on the Tanzanian mainland. She said yes. She posted the video. Her followers lit up. Her family celebrated from thousands of miles away. It looked, from the outside, like the beginning of everything. On April 6, 2026, the couple checked into the Zuri Zanzibar Hotel, Nungwi Beach, Zanzibar, Tanzania. White sand, turquoise water. Private beachfront villas set apart from each other like something out of a travel magazine. This was supposed to be the second half of the dream. Birthday done, engagement sealed, now 7 days of paradise before. Flying home to start a new chapter. 7 days. They were due to check out on April 13th. They would not make it to April 13th. 1 day before everything fell apart, Ashlee posted again. Quietly. No grand caption, no celebration. Just a photo from the trip and 7 words that, in hindsight, feel like something else entirely. If this is a dream, no one wake me up. People who knew Ashlee said she had a gift, that she could read a room, that her instincts about people were sharp, the kind of sharp that you trust without questioning it. She had built an entire following on authenticity, on showing people exactly who she was. Which is why, when you hold that last caption against what happened on the night of April 8th, inside that resort, in that villa, it doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right at all. But before we get to that night, I need to take you back to the argument. Because the argument is not a footnote in this story. They had been checked in for 2 days, 2 days into what was supposed to be 7. The engagement was fresh, the birthday had just passed, the photos were still being liked and shared and commented on back home in South Jersey, by people who had no idea that on the other side of the world, inside a private beachfront villa at the Zuri Zanzibar Hotel, something was breaking. On the night of April 8, 2026, something went very wrong. Zanzibar police described it officially as and I want you to hear their exact language here, a romantic conflict. A romantic conflict. That is the clinical, sanitized version of what neighboring guests reportedly could not ignore. Because here is what you need to understand about the layout of this resort. These are not hotel rooms separated by a shared wall and a thin layer of drywall. These are private villas spread across a beachfront property. Separate structures, designed specifically to give guests privacy, distance, their own piece of paradise away from everyone else. And still. The people in the next villa heard it clearly enough that they didn't hesitate. They contacted hotel management. They made a formal complaint. Whatever was happening inside that villa on the night of April 8th, it was not quiet. It was not contained. It had crossed the threshold of what people who came to Zanzibar for peace and privacy were willing to pretend they couldn't hear. Hotel management responded. They made a decision. And this is the detail, confirmed by Zanzibar police in their own press statements, that investigators and the public have not been able to move past since this story broke. They separated the couple, and they moved Joe, not Ashlee. Joseph McCann was relocated to a different villa, approximately 8 to 10 minutes away on foot from where Ashlee was staying. That distance, that direction of removal, is documented, is confirmed, and has never been fully explained by hotel management in any public statement. Think about what that means operationally. When a hotel responds to a domestic disturbance complaint and makes the active choice to remove one person and leave the other in place, that choice reflects something. A read of the room. An assessment of who the disturbance was coming from. Hotels do not randomly select which guest to relocate. They move the problem. McCann was moved. Ashlee stayed. Now, most of us have been in a relationship where one argument changed the entire temperature of a night, where words got said that couldn't be unsaid, where the air in a room became something you needed to get out of. We know what that feels like. The racing heart, the shaking hands, the desperate need to just breathe, to call someone you trust, to hear a familiar voice tell you that you're going to be okay. Ashlee called her mother. Yolanda Denise Endres, Ashlee's mum, confirmed it. Her daughter called her on the night of April 8th, after the separation, and told her what had happened. There had been an argument. They had been separated by hotel staff, but she was okay. She described it as a misunderstanding. She was calm, she was coherent, she was alive. And she was on her phone, and she was talking to the woman who loved her most in the world. That phone call, that moment of a daughter reassuring her mother across 8,000 miles of ocean, is the last confirmed contact Ashlee Janae Robinson had with her family. Alive. And here is where this story pivots. Here is where the account of a hotel worker, given on the record to a verified publication, becomes the single most important piece of testimony in this entire investigation. Because what that worker saw, and what that worker did or did not do in the hours that followed that phone call, raises a question that nobody who has followed this case can answer. And it is the question that law enforcement, the family, and now international human rights organisations are demanding be addressed. Need you to stay with me, because what comes next changes everything. After the separation, after the argument, after the complaint, after McCann was walked 8 to 10 minutes away to another villa on the other side of that resort, a hotel worker came to Ashlee's door. Routine, standard, the kind of check that resort staff do without thinking about it. A knock, a greeting. Is everything okay? Do you need anything? Ashlee answered. She was looking for a phone charger, that is all. A phone charger. One of the most ordinary requests a hotel guest can make. Her battery was low, or dead, possibly from the call with her mother. The attendant retrieved one for her, brought it back, handed it over. Unremarkable, forgettable, the kind of interaction that happens 100 times a night in a resort like this, and nobody remembers by morning. Except, before the attendant turned to leave, Ashlee made one request. Come back in 15 minutes. I want you to sit with that. She was alone in that villa. Her fiancé, the man who had proposed to her 5 days earlier, the man she had just argued with loudly enough that strangers felt compelled to call the front desk, had been walked to the other side of the property. She had just gotten off the phone with her mother. She had called it a misunderstanding. She had sounded calm. And then she asked a hotel worker she had just met, a stranger, to come back to her room in 15 minutes. Not in an hour, not before bed, not in the morning. 15 minutes. Why? Was she afraid? Was she expecting someone? Did she hear something outside that door that the rest of us will never hear? Did she want a witness? Someone in that corridor, someone close, without being able to say out loud that she needed one? We do not know. What we know is that the attendant did not come back in 15 minutes. They eventually returned, but not when she asked, not when she needed them to. A window of time opened between the moment Ashlee Robinson asked for someone to come back and the moment someone actually did. How wide that window was exactly has not been confirmed publicly, but it was wider than 15 minutes, and inside that window, everything changed. When the attendant returned to Ashlee's villa, the lights were off. The door was locked. Using an emergency key, the attendant opened the door. I am going to give you what the verified reporting tells us here, and I'm going to be precise, because in a case where details matter this much, every word has to be accurate. Hotel staff found Ashlee Robinson unresponsive in her room. A hospital report later documented a mark on her neck. She was found hanging from a door. She was unconscious, but she was still breathing. The attendant rushed for help immediately. Emergency responders were called. Ashlee was taken first to a local hospital and then transferred to a second hospital. It was that second hospital that would later document her official cause of death. And when that cause of death was finally recorded, it was not listed as suicide. It was listed as cerebral hypoxia, due to strangulation and suffocation. Sit with those words. Cerebral hypoxia. The brain deprived of oxygen. Strangulation. Suffocation. Those are the words on the official hospital record. Not a conclusion, not a verdict, but a medical finding. A documented physiological reality of what happened to Ashlee Janae Robinson's body on the night of April 8th, 2026. She was 31 years old. She had posted 4 days earlier, Chapter 31, and I'm exactly where I need to be. Now, here is where the official account and the family's account collide, head-on, with no clean resolution. Because while Ashlee was fighting for her life, being rushed between hospitals in Zanzibar, her parents were home, in South Jersey, knowing nothing. Nobody called them. Not the hotel, not the Zanzibar police, not the US Embassy. The first call they received, the first indication that their daughter was in a hospital on the other side of the world, came from Joe McCann. 11 hours after it happened. 11 hours. And when he called, he told Ashlee's mother that her daughter had done something to herself. He told her Ashlee was being taken to the hospital. He told her she was stable. Hours later, the hotel called the family directly. Ashlee was gone. And here is the detail in McCann's own account to police that I need you to hold on to, because it matters for everything that comes next. McCann told Tanzanian authorities that after being relocated to the other villa, he later returned to check on Ashlee. Not alone, with a security guard. And that it was during that return, with the security guard present, that he says he found her. That is his account, to police, on the record. Which means the question is no longer simply, what happened in that room? The question is, what happened in that room before anyone came back? And who, if anyone, has the answer? Let's go back to that phone call, because the phone call is not a side detail. The phone call is a window into everything that followed. Ashlee Robinson was already in a hospital in Zanzibar, already transferred, already fighting. And the people who loved her most in the world, her mother, Yolanda Denise Endres, her father, Harry Robinson, Her family in South Jersey had no idea. Nobody had called them. Nobody had reached out. Not the hotel, not local police, not the US Embassy. 11 hours passed. And then Joseph McCann called. He told Ashlee's mother that her daughter had done something to herself. He told her Ashlee was on her way to the hospital. He told her she was stable. Yolanda Endres, a mother receiving this call from a man she trusted with her daughter's life, asked what happened. McCann told her it had already been 11 hours since the incident occurred. 11 hours. She had been in a hospital for 11 hours before the man who was with her, the man who proposed to her 5 days earlier, picked up a phone and made that call. Hours after that call, the hotel contacted the family directly. Ashlee was gone. And that is when the official story arrived. Zanzibar police, led by Deputy Police Commissioner Zuberi Chembela, put forward their position. The death, they said, appeared to be a suicide. An investigation was underway. McCann was being questioned. His passport had been confiscated. But he was not, according to their initial public statements, suspected of wrongdoing. He was, in their language, a witness. The case direction, suicide. Investigation, ongoing but leaning toward a conclusion. Her family said, no. Not a long statement, not a press conference, just no. Ashlee's mother told reporters directly, she's never done anything that would ever lead me to believe that she would do something to harm herself like that. She was happy. Her father, Harry Robinson, sat in front of cameras and said 4 words that cut through everything else that was being said about his daughter. It just doesn't add up. Her sister, Alyssa Endres, described Ashlee as vibrant, positive, said that suicide would have been, in her exact words, extremely out of character. And then the family said something that every investigator, every journalist, and every person following this case should write down and keep. They asked for the surveillance footage. If there's security footage, Harry Robinson said, that would tell the story. That footage, as of this recording, has not been publicly confirmed as released or reviewed in full.
I was just going to add that we just want the answers to the questions that we're asking and that everyone's asking. We need help getting information, yes. And that's really what we're asking for.
Yes, and that's the reason why we went to social media on Sunday. We had to get it out there because this happened on Thursday and nothing was out there, like nothing was talked about, nothing was there. So that's why, okay, this is what happened. This was our daughter. Everyone needs to know what happened. And that's why that was Sunday.
Well, now, here is what a United States audience needs to understand about how law enforcement operates in Tanzania, because the system there does not work the way it works here. And if you do not understand the system, you cannot understand why this case has unfolded the way it has. Under Tanzanian legal protocol, authorities have the power to hold an individual in connection with a suspicious or high-profile death without filing formal charges, indefinitely. There is no 48-hour rule. There is no arraignment deadline that forces the hand of investigators. McCann's passport was seized. He is being questioned. He cannot leave. And as of this recording, not one single formal charge has been filed against him. That is not an oversight. That is the system functioning exactly as it was designed. Which means the Robinson family, 2 parents in South Jersey trying to find out what happened to their daughter, are waiting on answers from a legal framework that is under no obligation to give those answers on any particular timeline. That is the institutional reality this family is navigating, and they are navigating it alone. Or they were, until the United States Embassy moved. The US Embassy in Dar es Salaam dispatched personnel to Zanzibar in connection with Ashlee Robinson's case. The Zuri Zanzibar Hotel confirmed publicly that they were cooperating with both local authorities and the US Embassy in Tanzania. And according to reporting from the source that first broke the internal hotel staff account, a coroner connected to US interests has been sent to oversee the autopsy process on the island directly. I want you to understand the weight of that. The United States Embassy does not insert itself into foreign autopsy proceedings casually. That does not happen for routine cases. That does not happen when the official story is clean and uncontested and everyone is satisfied with the version of events on the table. Embassies move when something in the official account does not hold. When a family has made enough noise through enough official channels that the State Department can no longer treat it as a local matter. They moved. And that movement is a statement, even if no one in Washington is saying so out loud. At the same time, pressure arrived from another direction entirely. The Human Rights Association issued a formal demand, calling on the Tanzanian government to order a fully independent investigation into the circumstances of Ashlee Robinson's death. And in a simultaneous move, they urged the United States State Department to engage directly with Tanzanian authorities on behalf of the Robinson family, not as a diplomatic courtesy, as an obligation. Their position, stated publicly and without ambiguity, is this. When a foreign national dies under disputed circumstances and her own family contests the official account, the host government's responsibility to investigate transparently is not optional. It is not discretionary. It is not something they get to do on their own schedule, at their own pace, with their own preferred conclusions already in mind. It is required. As of this recording, there is no official cause of death released publicly, no toxicology report, no charges filed, no confirmed review of surveillance footage, no statement from Joseph McCann to the press or to the public. Nothing. Just a family, an investigation, a coroner in an autopsy room, and a world that is refusing to look away. Now, I need to bring you back to something, because earlier in this video, I told you about how Ashlee was found. The door, the locked room, the lights off, the moment the attendant used an emergency key and opened that door. I need you to revisit that detail, because forensic investigators and true crime analysts who have reviewed the publicly available facts of this case have raised a question about staging, about positioning. In documented femicide cases, and I want to be clear that I'm speaking about patterns in documented cases, not making a declaration about this one, scenes are sometimes constructed to appear self-inflicted. A body is positioned, a door is used deliberately, you hear a key in the lock, you have already slipped out. You circle back, you return to your assigned villa on the other side of the property, the one the hotel itself relocated you to. And when investigators come looking, you are exactly where you were supposed to be, 8 to 10 minutes away, with an alibi that the hotel created for you. I want to stop here and be exact about something, because this matters. Joseph McCann has not been charged. No court has reached any verdict. No investigation has concluded. What I have walked you through, every single detail is drawn from verified reporting by ABC News, NBC Philadelphia, 6 ABC, CBS News, and confirmed statements from Zanzibar police and the Robinson family themselves. These are documented questions, questions that law enforcement is formally asking, questions that human rights organizations have put in writing, questions that the United States Embassy has taken seriously enough to act on. Those are not accusations. Those are the architecture of a real investigation. And that investigation is not over. Now, this is the part of the story that broke everything open. Not a press release, not a police statement, not a carefully worded legal brief from an embassy or a human rights organisation. A hotel worker. Someone who was inside the Zuri Zanzibar Hotel, in that building, on that property, on that night. Someone who saw what they saw, and who, until recently, had said nothing publicly. That silence is over. This worker's account was given to a publication with an established editorial record in East Africa. This is not a tabloid. This is not anonymous sourcing from an unverified social media account. This is on the record. And what this account does, methodically, in sequence, is fill in the spaces that the official version of events left empty. So let's go through it, in order, because the order matters. The argument between Ashlee Robinson and Joseph McCann on the night of April 8th was not a quiet disagreement behind a closed door. It was loud enough, disruptive enough, that guests in the neighbouring villa contacted hotel management directly. A formal complaint. From people who did not want to be involved, but felt they had no choice. Hotel management responded, and as confirmed by Zanzibar police, they made the decision to separate the couple. McCann was relocated, not Ashlee. McCann walked to a villa approximately 8 to 10 minutes away from where Ashlee was staying. She remained in her room. That is the first thing this worker's account confirms, and it aligns precisely with what police have stated publicly. Then, after the separation, a hotel staff member came to Ashlee's door. And here is where the worker's account gives us something the police statements did not. Ashlee answered. She was coherent, composed, phone in hand. She asked for a charger. The worker retrieved one, brought it back, handed it over. And before they turned to leave, Ashlee asked them to come back in 15 minutes. That detail, that specific, quiet, almost casual request, is the detail that everyone who has read this account cannot let go of. Because she did not ask them to stay. She did not say she was afraid. She did not use any language that would have legally obligated that hotel worker to remain or escalate to a supervisor or call for additional staff. She just asked, simply, directly, for someone to return in 15 minutes. And the worker did not come back in 15 minutes. When they eventually returned to Ashlee's villa, the lights were off. The door was locked. The worker used an emergency key and opened the door. And in that moment, confirmed by the hotel staff account and consistent with what investigators have documented, Ashlee Robinson was found unresponsive. A mark on her neck, hanging from a door. Unconscious, but breathing. The worker called for help immediately. Emergency responders were contacted. Ashlee was taken first to a local hospital and then transferred to a second facility. That second hospital recorded her cause of death as cerebral hypoxia due to strangulation and suffocation. She was declared dead on April 9th, 2026. She had turned 31 4 days earlier. Now I want to ask you something directly. If that hotel worker had gone back in 15 minutes, exactly when Ashlee asked, would she be alive right now? That is not a rhetorical provocation. That is the question that the Robinson family, investigators, and human rights advocates are formally demanding an answer to. Because the timeline matters. The gap matters. Every minute inside that window of time between when she asked and when anyone returned matters. And then there is the question underneath that question, the one that is harder to sit with. Why did she ask? She had just spoken to her mother. She had her charger. She had her phone. She was alone in a villa on a resort with staff available at all hours. She did not need anything else that a hotel worker could bring her in 15 minutes. So why did she ask someone to come back? Did she hear something outside that door? Did she feel unsafe in a way she could not fully articulate in that moment? Was she expecting someone? Was that request, so quiet, so specific, the closest she could come to saying out loud that she did not want to be alone? The surveillance footage from that hotel corridor could answer every one of those questions. Every single one. And as of this recording, the Robinson family has publicly requested that footage. Her father said it directly to the press. If there's security footage, that would tell the story. Whether that footage has been fully reviewed, and by whom, has not been confirmed publicly. And now, here is the detail I cannot move past. When hotel management separated the couple that night, they moved McCann to a villa 8 to 10 minutes away. Ashlee stayed in her room. Her room. The room they had checked into together on April 6th. Together. Which means McCann had checked into that room. He had a key. And even setting aside whatever formal arrangements the hotel made during the separation, even if that key had been collected, even if every protocol had been followed exactly as it should have been, there is one variable that no hotel policy can fully control. Ashlee knew him. Ashlee loved him. Had said yes to him 5 days earlier on a safari in Tanzania. Had called their explosive argument a misunderstanding when she spoke to her mother that night. Had sounded, by every account, like a woman who still believed in the relationship she was in. If he had knocked on that door, she would have opened it. So the question is no longer simply, what happened inside that villa? The question that law enforcement, the US Embassy, and the Human Rights Association are now circling from every direction is who was in that room, and when, and what does the corridor footage show? Ashlee's parents are not waiting for answers to come to them. Harry Robinson and Yolanda Denise Endress have already travelled to Washington, D.C., walking into offices, requesting meetings, demanding that US officials engage with what is happening to their family on the other side of the world. And they are preparing to go further. They are planning to travel to Zanzibar themselves, to be on the ground, to look people in the eye and ask the questions that phone calls and official channels have not answered. That is not desperation. That is a family doing exactly what needs to be done. They are not alone. Ashlee's close friend, publicly known as Miss Brit, has been vocal, consistent, and relentless in keeping this case in front of people who might otherwise have moved on. In a news cycle that moves fast and does not always slow down for cases like this one, she has not let that happen. A GoFundMe has been created to help the family cover travel costs and investigative expenses. Every share, every donation, every person who stays informed matters. We have seen what happens when none of this comes together. When a Black American woman dies abroad and the case gets quietly filed away before anyone has real answers. The Shanquilla Robinson case showed us that. Showed us how fast a story can disappear when the pressure lifts too soon. This case is different. Not because justice is guaranteed, it is not, but because the pressure has not lifted. Diplomatic involvement, human rights intervention, a family that is physically moving towards the truth rather than away from it, and a public that is watching closely enough that walking this back quietly is no longer a simple option for anyone involved. The autopsy is expected. The results will come. And when they do, we will be here. Ashlee Janae Robinson went to Zanzibar to celebrate 31 years of living. She went to say yes to a man she loved. She went because she had earned it. A dream trip, a birthday, a future she was excited to build. She posted photos of giraffes and rose petals and African sunsets and wrote words that sounded like pure joy. She deserved to come home. As of today, no official cause of death released publicly, no toxicology report, no charges filed. One man being questioned, his passport seized, saying nothing to the press. Two parents who flew to Washington, D.C. for answers and are now preparing to board another plane, this time to Zanzibar. And an autopsy overseen by US interests whose results the entire world is waiting on. That is where this case stands. What stays with me is not any single dramatic detail. It is the accumulation, the 15-minute gap, the phone call made 11 hours too late, the last caption she ever posted, the surveillance footage her father asked about by name and that nobody has publicly confirmed has been fully reviewed. None of those details are alarming on their own. Lined up together, you cannot look away. The autopsy results are coming. When they drop, I will be here, with the full breakdown, with context, and with every update this family deserves to have told clearly and honestly. If this video helped you understand what is happening, hit the like button. It takes 1 second, and it tells the algorithm this story deserves to be seen. Subscribe if you are not already here, because this case is moving, and I will cover every development as it comes. Share this video, because the more people who know Ashlee's name, the harder it becomes to let this go quietly. And drop a comment below. Tell me where in the world you are watching from. I read every single one. Her name was Ashlee Robinson. The world knew her as Ashlee Janae. She was 31 years old. And she deserves the truth.